The road to production for any musical is never straightforward, and that was certainly the case for my first musical, Tales of Olympus, which started as something completely different from what it became. Somewhere during the middle of the development of it, I had to make a hard left and do a big pivot. It actually started as a commission through Bay Area Children's Theater to adapt the King Midas myth into a musical. And I was so excited because I had never been asked to turn anything into a musical with the intention that it would get produced through a theater company. So, first step for me was to read the Midas myth and sit with it and come up with some ideas. And I started to play with it being Greek mythology and knowing that the names of modes in music theory are based off of Greek places. If you have no idea what modes are in music, don't even worry about it. It's not important for this particular conversation. But the point is that I came up with a whole schema, a framework of how to start to build the music for this Midas musical. And then I created a demo of 4 song ideas. They weren't fully fleshed out yet, but just some song ideas using these musical modes. And I passed this demo along to the producer, Nina Meehan. She was the artistic director of Bay Area Children's Theater at the time. And she seemed excited, and I was excited, and we were going to meet up to talk about next steps. So fast forward a few weeks, and I go to a cafe to meet up with Nina, and she has this look on her face that I'm not quite sure what it means. And she lets me know that she's been thinking about it and she was so excited about what I had already conjured up for the demo. But she thinks that maybe the show needs to actually be about Greek mythology in a broader sense, not just one myth. Now, of course, my heart sank because I had already started to dream up what this Midas musical would become. But I also could see her point that maybe a musical about a bunch of Greek myths put together would be perhaps more appealing or easier of a sell to parents and teachers than just a adaptation of one singular story. So while I still believed that Midas was a beautiful story to adapt, I had to pivot. And thankfully, all that work with musical modes didn't go to waste since it was now going to be Greek myths anyway. I was able to bring some of those thoughts around modal use and use them for the new musical material I would be coming up with for this Greek myth musical. So one of the first steps now was to find a collection of Greek myths that could work for a musical for young audiences. Now, thankfully, when I was in the 5th grade, I had a very special teacher who loved Greek mythology, and so I had actually read and learned a lot of these myths at a young age. So I landed on a few that I thought could work well in a music format, could be told in song, would be fun for kids to learn. For example, the story of how the 6 Olympians came to be, the story of Athena and Arachne, the story of Persephone, the story of Pandora. I also had to consider how to make G-rated versions of these myths, because some of these myths contain some things that probably do not need to be in a show for young audiences. And once I had these myths, the next thing I needed was some kind of connective through line so that there was a reason for these myths to be told in song together. And that's where the character of Jason enters. He is an 11-year-old boy who loves stories and wishes that he could be a storyteller of some kind, but also suffers from terrible stage fright. The Greek gods are actually looking for their next bard, and they think that this 11-year-old Jason could be the one. But he needs some help overcoming his stage fright, and so they use their stories as a way to help him practice and become a better storyteller. And that's honestly how Tales of Olympus, a Greek myth musical, came to be. I wrote my first draft of both script and songs. We were able to do a workshop of that. I went into some revisions, and then we were able to get into rehearsals, setting up for a production in December 2012. The show then toured to local schools around the Bay Area, also supported by Bay Area Children's Theater. And I've been lucky enough that the show has also been produced in places like Indianapolis and Baltimore. And now it's published and licensed via Uproar Theatrics. So I'm very thankful that this was my first commission because the show has had a very exciting life since its world premiere. And I am glad that Nina convinced me to pivot the piece because I do think it has broader appeal being about Greek mythology in general. Now, what about all that material that I had already started developing for the Midas myth adaptation? Well, that's maybe a story for another time. But spoilers, that was not the end of that idea. You can read the script for Tales of Olympus for free at uproartheatrics.com, or you can listen to the cast album on any music streaming platform. But this just goes to show you that if you have to pivot, it might feel a little sad to let go of what used to be, but there could be something really exciting after you make that hard left turn.